Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelley Stevens.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Private Practice Pro podcast. This is a special treat today because I have Jennifer Pyle and Amanda Smith here who work a lot with me and own a company called Jenga Creative that does all the things you could ever imagine for marketing for therapists. So, Jenn and Amanda, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit. First of all, tell us where you're sitting, where in the world you are, and tell us a little bit about your company.
Where are we sitting? We're sitting in my home office in Redondo Beach, California.
Yeah.
And we have...
And who are you?
Well, okay. So okay. So we're a power team of marketers and developers. You know, we really help our clients to achieve their goals. And we've been doing this for a while. We're also like really, really close friends. We basically live together. One of our clients calls us, what does she say? It's the whole thing. But yeah, we have similar kids. We're in the community together, and we started doing this some time ago where we utilized our own individual skills to like bring together for this specific niche. Amanda is a therapist.
Yeah.
And, and I've been in web and graphic design for too long. Can you say out
We'll
loud?
just say a little bit of time.
My entire professional career. How about that? Why don't you go with that? My entire professional career. So, I don't know. You want to talk about how you got to like how we got here? Yeah, but like this kind of. How we got here was I was in grad school and I started doing the work for therapists, obviously, because that was. I had business skills and marketing skills, and I had lots of therapist friends. And when I was in grad school, I realized that they didn't really teach you anything about marketing, how to open a practice, how to start a practice. I actually talked to a therapist yesterday, and they had like a free 2-hour workshop at Long Beach State University as part of their program, but nobody really showed up on how to market. And he said they didn't teach very much. It was very like basic. So I realized that too. And when I started helping other therapists, I realized how lost they were. And having had that marketing experience in the past, I was able to kind of utilize that skill as well as my knowledge of therapy and, HIPAA compliance and ethics and all of that to help them with that specific marketing.
Right.
And what I didn't have was skills in graphic design. I don't have that eye. Like she's the artist in
she's
the
awesome.
relationship. Yeah. And she definitely, has the web design, those things. And at the beginning, I was like, oh, I want to learn. And then I realized I did not want to learn. Well, and this really comes to the basis of, our value and our business is, and we had this conversation as like two good friends. And, what I basically said to her was like, look, I love you. I'm sure I have no doubt that you could learn all of these skills. Like you're competent, you're intelligent, you're quick, you're, like all of these things. But do you want to? Or do you just want to focus on like what you actually want to do? And that's kind of like the birth of Jenga, right?
But I'm really stubborn, so I said I wanted to.
And then called me frantically. I broke it.
I've made those calls to you before.
Yeah. But it's true. And I think through this experience, I have not only figured out that they don't really teach you anything about marketing in graduate school, but even when you go into like under supervision as an associate, like even I feel that a lot of those supervisors don't take the time to teach associates how to open their own practice. Their
Right.
goal is to make money, and no harm, no foul. Like that is, I help people grow group practices too. But, if there's somebody that wants that support, it should be offered to them. And
and there's more to it, right? Like there's ideation, there's like the concept and like the strategic nature of marketing in general. And then there's also the like implementation and the technological side and all of it.
Right.
Like, we work with people who are like, oh, I've never been on social media, or I don't know, I don't want to, or I've never, what is Canva? What is, so, I mean, and I think it's important. Like I've always had the belief, like, I trust the specialist, right? Like when I go to my hairstylist, I'm like, what do you think? Because I'm not I'm not a hairstylist.
Oh my God. I tried to cut mine during COVID. It didn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I want to trust the person who has the training in it, and so that's kind of what we, strive to be, as the person that our clients can trust to advise them on what's going to be the most valuable to their business and their goals, and then, actually implement those things and make them a reality.
So I obviously know you guys, and I should back up and say that Jenga Creative does so much of the back end work of my business, and we'll get into all of that in a little while. But can you guys tell me, let's say a therapist is wanting to either promote their private practice or develop multiple streams of income, and they say to themselves, you know what, I really need to outsource some of these tasks because there's something I don't know how to do. Can you give us an example of just some of the things that they could choose from or services that you guys offer? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we have a lot of services because I feel, one of the things that therapists, they kind of stay in their box a lot of times, like even on websites, I do humanistic therapy, and our value system and our belief is that good marketing is when you show up authentically and you present what you're passionate about, what you're an expert in. And so the services we offer are, wide ranging, from launching a podcast, obviously, online courses, ebooks, lead magnets, email marketing, websites. Yeah, that's a big one. I always forget because that's your side.
The back end of online courses. Yeah.
Right. Back end of online courses. It's all of the things. Yeah. But it depends on what you're actually offering. If you are a therapist and all you want to do is open a private practice, it would be website and maybe some SEO, depending on where you're at. And copywriting and writing blogs, all of that stuff, kind of content creation kind of falls into that too. If you're looking to if you have a product that, like, let's say you train other therapists and you've been doing it and you have a wait list of people that want to train with you, I would suggest doing an online course. I would suggest creating a course you can have on a website to sell to people who can't come in person. And so we would help you not only film, edit, and brand that course, but set up the back end of the course and then launch it with you. And that might include doing email marketing. That might include social media posts. However, we don't do social media management in general. And if you are a practice who maybe has their own model or does something very niche specific or works with a really, specific group of people with a specific presenting problem, we might suggest doing a podcast and a YouTube series. Because if their goal is to bring more people into that facility, then, doing a course might not be the best option for them. They want to bring people in for maybe these intensives. So we would say, do a podcast, do a web series, get on social media, show people. And we have an 80-20 rule with that, where, we tell our clients, use your rule.
It's my rule. It's probably not my rule. I probably heard it from someone else. Like, I don't know if there's anything original left in this world, but I mean, my rule is, if you give away 80% of your content for free, people will come back and pay for the other 20%, and I think that there's a lot of aspects to that. Psychologically, there's trust, there's all of these things. But, like, one of the biggest things that is fulfilling about this work we do, and like, the team that we have, is really just getting on. We get on these calls with like new clients, and we just hear like their passion and what they're all about. And, our like, wheels start turning, and like, we really can, seeing their vision and like utilizing our strengths to be able to be like, yes, let's do that. I love that, and make it come to life and really be able to support them, and in not just in like the technical, the nuts and bolts of things, but also like, we have had clients where really what they're getting from us is like that like cheerleader, that business bestie to be like, to kind of keep them going on it, and and then all the pieces, and we really believe in partnerships. Like we really I don't think any one of the clients that we have really worked with have not become like friends and stayed in stay in contact with, it's like we don't ever, it never kind of ends. Not that we like keep you locked in, but just like we stay connected and we want to do more things, and our clients grow, and watching them grow is so fun. And it's really exciting to do, because I really do think every single person we've talked to, some of them have not worked with us or couldn't start at the time, but like, I mean, what these people are doing out there is just, I love it, and I love listening to them talk and be like, passionate about their thing. And I learned so much personally as well. So, I love doing that. And I feel like it all makes sense,
Honorary therapist.
Oh, totally. Jenn is like our honorary therapist. So I would say too, as somebody who works with you guys, I would imagine that anyone listening to this podcast might be asking themselves, like, what do you guys do for Private Practice Pro? So I thought I could share a little bit about what you guys do for me. And that might be helpful of giving an example, which is all the things, let's be honest. So we're laughing because like it's a lot. But I'll say the first thing you guys do for me is you produce this podcast. You're the producers of this podcast. So for those of you who are listening who don't know, this podcast goes out on every major podcast, what would you call it, channel? Jenn knows the right word. Of course, I don't. Platform. See, I don't even know the freaking word. You help me write blogs for this podcast. You publish this podcast on YouTube. You edit the video for this podcast. You do the show notes for this podcast. You do the episode art for this podcast. You do everything. Basically, I show up, I record it, I manage the guests that come on, and that's it. And so I think that that's, anyone who's listening obviously is probably a fan of the podcast, and it sounds beautiful, and we get like feedback all the time that the sound quality is amazing, and that's a huge part to you guys. So that's number one. The second thing you guys do for me is you've done the perfectionist is my website, and we went through a major rebrand in the last year. And you guys did that. We brought, I feel like, Private Practice Pro to a more modern design, because just like you were saying earlier, Amanda, like I definitely started with the first iteration that I designed and quickly realized that that was not my strength. So we launched a new website recently. You guys do a lot of blogging for me. And then you do a lot of my search engine optimization. And the entire back end of my current courses and a future course that we have launching soon. So that'll be really great too. And I should say you edited all the videos for them, of which there were like, how many hours? 39 hours worth of video. I mean, like we're talking longer than the Titanic movie of online course. Online course. I like to joke with Jenn that I'm sure you're sick of seeing my face. So, really the whole back end, I 100% have full confidence that I couldn't do it without you guys. And, and I don't want to, I think kind of like we were talking about as therapists, like you want to be doing your craft. I still see clients, although I'm having a babysit. But, when you, as somebody, as a content creator or as somebody who's running a business, you also have to run that business, and so being able, having Jenga has really allowed me to 3x my profits in the last year, because it's freed me up to be able to do the parts of my business that only I could do. Which I think is ultimately what therapists need, is like, whether that's they're seeing clients or they are creating the content that goes into the work that you guys put in. It takes time, and I think that's maybe something we could talk about, is like this idea that like when clients come to you guys, or when I come to you guys or whatever, there's going to be certain elements, right, that only they can do. And like, because you talk about that authenticity piece. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that. Like, where do you see therapists making mistakes in showing up or hiring people, or, you know, like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So I think therapists, what my experience has been so far with therapists is that they are online and they see somebody else selling a product or a course, or they have taken a course and they get really, really excited. And then they call us and say, I really want to do a course.
I want to make a course.
I want to make a course and I want this passive income. And I heard that this course creator is making all this money every month and like, I want to do it. And
how hard could it be? That's the one I always hear. How hard could it be?
And my first question is always like, that's amazing, right? Like I'm super positive, but like what content?
About what? Yeah, like what content have you already written?
Right. Yeah. And what we have found is a good percentage of people that come to us have no content.
Zero.
Right? They have this big idea. And I think
some of them don't even have an idea.
Some of them don't.
You know, they want passive income.
As therapists, I think who we are as people, we're really passionate people.
Yeah,
and
we want to
really help people.
Right.
And so when we see or we have been helped by somebody in this way, we get really excited and then we want to do the same thing. And we take 30 steps forward when we haven't even like done step one. And so I think that has been the most common thing that we've seen. And so for me, I think if you're a therapist and you're really thinking about doing additional streams of income, one, it's not passive. Like you
laugh too, right? There's no such thing.
No such thing as passive income. No. It's time or money. You're either putting in the time or you're,
and that's everything. Money. You know, right? Like, that's everything. That's just life. You know, it's not necessarily just this niche or this specific thing.
Right.
That's life. It's time or money. There's no like free lunch, whatever. But like, you know, and as you know, like it has to be like a passion project. You have to like love it.
Oh,
you know? Like you have to really love it. And, you know, I want to say like you have to really believe in it. But at the same time, like we work with people that don't really believe enough in themselves, you know, but have great content. And we have one client in particular where we're like, oh, we'll get there in 6 months.
Right.
But we're like, oh, you're doing a podcast, you're doing this. Like you have something special and you need, and she's like, oh, no,
okay.
no, I just want clients. Like, you know, we're like, we'll see,
and
you know.
Because we have another one who is amazing that it gets very overwhelmed. And she was like in a meeting, like, no, like, I only want to do this. And then like a week later was like, I really thought about it.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know what I mean? Like this would be the right way to utilize
I think
my skills.
I might be that person. I need about a week to think about things. Yeah.
And but you've always been on a mission. Like you've been on a mission, you're dedicated, you're driven to that mission and that goal and growing that thing. And, you know, that's one of the things that's been great about working with you is that like, you really see clearly where you're going. And, you know, like our clients run the gamut. You know, we have clients that really see where they're going, that clients that want to go somewhere, but don't know how. We have clients that are, you know, everybody is, you know, just, and it's so, the irony that it's like very much like therapy, right? Like you have, as a therapist, and I've learned this from the both of you, like you have to meet people where they're at. And like we take that value from, you know, her therapy and, you know, whatever into our meetings with our clients, into like our work that we do. And we want to meet people where they're at and then help them get to the next level, whatever that may be, you know, and some of those roads, some of those roads are a long road, and that's okay. And they're good with that because everybody's on their own journey just as much as, you know, and I've heard this before when editing the other podcast, you know, like other guests talk about, you know, like, look, I'm on my own journey, you know, and like that's very true for this too. And, you know, we've worked with clients that, you know, started out just in that one space like that. I just want to start my private practice. I just don't want to have a mean boss. And I like just want to make sure that I can put food on the table. And then like over time, you know, they've moved on to that place of like, okay, I'm ready to move beyond
totally.
that.
Well, and you know, I would say to like for you guys too, this is where the coaching piece comes in. So one thing I think that's cool that I've seen you guys add in the last year, and I could say, I think this is really important. So is a coaching piece. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, I know I want to detach my time from my money. I know I want to build something. Maybe it's a course, maybe it's a podcast, whatever it is, but I'm not there yet with coming in with the vision and the content and everything. You guys now provide some coaching around that so you can help your clients gain some clarity on that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all do that thing, right? Where we're like, we feel the like in our soul, the pull to do something, but then in our head, we're like, oh, I don't know if I, the imposter syndrome, the like, I don't know if I'm actually an expert, all of the different things that come up for us as human beings, and like,
and it's all of us.
It's all of us.
Totally.
Listening,
or
we have it.
Oh,
too.
100%. I mean, and I think like, I'll say one thing that I think is super helpful. So when I came to you guys at a point when I'd been a little bit down the road. I was about a year into the thing and I needed to really take my business and scale it and make it bigger in a way that I couldn't do alone. And I was kind of drowning. Let's be honest. I was really drowning.
Yeah. Well, you hit a ceiling because, again, we only all have so many hours
much time.
in a day.
And like, I try to work like not very much. So, but prior to you guys, when I first started out in thinking about Private Practice Pro, I had this problem, and I would imagine that it's something similar to what people listening to this face is like, I didn't even know what the options were. Do you know what I mean? Like I knew like my like example always is taking care of babies, like who like, I feel like you guys have heard me talk about this before, but it's like, I was like taking all these mommy courses and the, like sleep training courses and speech sisters and whatever, and thinking to myself like, okay, these people can do it. Why can't therapists do it? But I had no idea like even what the options were. And I sought out some coaching at that time. And I think that that is one of the most helpful things that I did was just getting a lay of the land of like, okay, I know I want to expand my impact beyond one-to-one therapy. Great. Now what? Like, but what does that even mean? I think so many of us as therapists are like, I know I want to create an online course. Like, how hard could it be? Or I want to create a podcast. How hard could it be? And then there's like 10 steps that you need to take prior to making it, or 100 steps. And I think that that's where, when you guys provide coaching services, you do give clients that lay of the land of like, oh, okay, these are what some of your options are. Then they have to make a decision on what works for them.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but like what's going to be the most efficient use of their resources, right? Like if you have a course, or if you're in this, like for some clients, it might be like a course, or it might be a webinar series, or, it might be, and some, we have had clients where they have specialized in like these in-person kind of, trainings. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, how we help them kind of reach that broader audience. They may not know how to do things, and we can help them. And we can also say like, okay, yeah, great. Social media is great, but that's not going to be any value to you in your goals for this project. So, so yes, absolutely. And I think that's something that we really find very fulfilling in just the work that we do. Like, like there's a lot of different pieces and aspects, but being able to like, kind of see the lights come on for people and see them go like, oh yeah. And then they like kind of like, yes, that, and really it's like just kind of pulling those like ideas or pieces out of their minds, because it's like, it's not our content. It's not our expertise. It's not our, but we can help them see beyond the cloud that is like that expertise, sometimes it can be kind of blinding.
And I think too, one of the things I noticed as a therapist from other therapists is why coaching is so great for them is that there is a lot of fear around the ethics of doing this, right? Yeah. So like in your niche, you're teaching other therapists how to
it's not as
build a practice. There isn't an ethical violation there. But if you're a therapist and you work with teens, or you work with parents, or in the realm of you're providing courses for people, not other therapists, there is some fear around like, is this ethical? And we've been told, I think as therapists for a long time, this is not ethical. I disagree. We live in a new world. Everything is digital. Therapists are doing online, telehealth. Like everything is changing, and people need access to therapy who might not be able to pay, especially if you're a cash pay therapist, $250, $300 an hour, or if you're in a different state, maybe $100 an hour. And even therapists in network, there are a lot of people who don't have access to that.
Right.
Or don't even know it's what they need, or maybe are afraid of the stigma. And so offering free webinars, offering online courses, things that can reach a larger audience, I think is not only ethical, it's necessary in today's day and age.
Oh, 100%.
And if therapists can get out of that mindset, I do think that they have a bigger impact. And I think that is something that holds a lot of therapists back. They want to do it, but they're like, 100%. What are other people going to think? And then, you get a lot of hate for this, right? Even though you're not even doing something that is patient related. And we see that with other clients. It's like, how could you do this? And I would say the therapists that feel that way, they just believe differently, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're there to, and we have your back to be able to be like, okay, here's the disclaimer you have to put in it. Like, this is this is how the legality and to how you stay in that like appropriate lane.
Right.
To keep, good ethics and stay legal and, and just put all those pieces in place so that you're not just out there risking, your livelihood.
Oh, totally. And I think like that's been like an under-mentioned thing that I think in the online course space. And I know that like we've like together all worked with like different lawyers or attorneys. Like I've been, and you have those referrals too, to be able to say, okay, if you're putting out an online course, you could refer your clients, your therapist clients, to say, make sure your terms and conditions are written this way by this attorney, or you could give them references, which I think is, I didn't even think about until I put out my first online course. And I was like, oh, I need an attorney for this, which is 100%. Helpful. And like, there are those people, but I think that it's helpful too, because Amanda's a therapist. So, I know for me, like you guys weren't the only company I looked at, obviously. And the biggest thing that troubled me was I had people who were pitching, marketing companies to me that had no idea about therapy. And when you're putting out content in the therapy space, the reality is you're not only therapists put out mental health content, right? We see big tech companies put out mental health content. We see coaches put out mental health content. And so I always tell therapists, like, you have to join the conversation because other people are doing it.
Yeah.
But we need to do it within the law and ethics of our profession. Yeah. And we're not saying that Amanda's a lawyer or an ethical expert, but it's really nice to be able to have another therapist on your team say, okay, let's call CAMFT about this question, or let's, make sure we check on this, so that you feel comfortable as the client, to the therapist client, to be able to say, okay, I feel like I've created a resource that's really valuable to me and to other people, but is not going to get me in legal trouble, which I think is huge and one of the biggest barriers that people run into, certainly.
Hey, therapists. Are you listening to the show and thinking, I really want to launch my own private practice, but I have no idea where to start? Make sure to check out Kelley's Private Practice Roadmap course. In the course, Kelley gives you the exact steps you need to open your own thriving practice. You can find the link below in the show notes.
Well, and also, especially in the time and space that we're in currently, right? Post-pandemic, mental health, everybody needs mental health, and wellness as a standard right now. And so there's a lot of people getting into the profession. There's a lot of people who, it's a big thing right now. So it's also part of the zeitgeist. It's something that we're talking about, and it's something that everyone is talking about.
Right.
And like you said, like there are different voices out there that have no, necessarily any real authority or clinical background.
Right.
And, it's very apparent when you don't, right? Like, because, and here's the thing,
but it's apparent to us. It's not apparent to consumers.
Yeah.
As to therapists,
I think that's
it's
part
apparent.
of the ethics, right? Like, as like ethically, as like the stewards of this industry, I think it's important for like you guys to maintain what that means, what like clinical speak and therapy and what that is, and keep that in that lane and say like, okay, coaching, okay, your opinion, great. That's not clinical. That's not what we do, and so I think it's important to be able to have on your team someone that can say like, this isn't. And I think most marketing companies, and there may be some therapists in other marketing companies, I don't know, but like, I think that what people find is that what they get is very, very unique with us. And they're like, yes, when we write, like it's something we've done in the past when we've had, blogs or whatever, it's like, you're like, yes, instead of, other writers might not have the kind of expertise in the field.
100%. I've worked with a lot of writers who were way off the mark. Definitely. Yeah.
In that, like what you're saying is there is a lot of this coaching stuff going on. However, I do also suggest sometimes that therapists do coaching. And that's a part of my practice that I will be adding is I will be doing some sort of advocacy coaching. Because what I find, I get a lot of people that come to me and ask me about maybe treatment centers for their kids or things like that, because they don't have the expertise and knowledge. And there is so much noise out in the world. And they want somebody that they can trust to point them in the right direction. And that is, something I think that us as therapists really are starting, like you said, to see is just all of this noise. And like you said, if you don't join the conversation now, I'm afraid that people will...
It's going to get away from you.
Well, I don't, like, we're still so needed, but I'm afraid that it's going to harm people, right? Like, because you're going to have people that don't have
already does,
education. It already does,
Yeah.
And,
it's that critical thinking problem.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you see people on TikTok that, like, I feel like I get sent these reels all the time from creators who are in the mental health space, but perhaps not adequately trained and, saying things that are harmful, and it's scary, certainly. It is
scary, And it's dangerous. And so for me, I think it's really important to acknowledge that. Like, as a therapist, that's frustrating, but also say it's also okay because I'm doing it too. And I think it's totally fine if you are a therapist to have a piece of your business that does provide coaching. And sometimes if you're in a different state and you're licensed in that state, but you want to offer a course or you want to offer things, you have to offer it as coaching. And that's okay, as long as you're very clear on the ethical guidelines and you are being, honest with the people that you're working with. And
you want to make sure to do your research 100%, you know.
So I don't want to shame coaching in any way.
No. I don't think we are. I mean, I think and a lot of therapists do coaching, and 100%. We've had some episodes on it too. So I want to ask you guys, I have 2 more questions. So my first question is, when somebody comes to you and they say, okay, what are my first few steps? Maybe something they could do prior to reaching out to you guys. What are the first things you want to see therapists doing if they are interested in kind of bringing on some marketing or bringing in different streams of income?
Okay, trick question, right? So you are coming to us and you want a website and you just want to open a practice.
Yeah.
I would say, unless you want us to write the copy, then it would be a big questionnaire and we'd work with you to write it. Create your content. Be very clear on what you want to offer, how much you want to charge. We also consult with that as well, helping people make those decisions. Niche down. What are your solutions? You have to be very clear on that. Niche down. And this is something I have conversations with all the time, especially new associates that are like, I don't want to niche down. I want to take everybody. Yeah. And here's the thing. If you're an associate and you want to take everybody because you haven't decided what you want to do, then do it because you need the experience, right? If your experience is limited. But if you know what you want to do and you're taking everybody because you're afraid you won't get full.
Right.
I have seen the people that niche down, that are very clear on who they want to serve and what they want to do, fill up way quicker than the people who take everything.
Totally.
So
100%.
That is
if you think you're serving everyone, you're serving
no one.
Exactly.
Right.
And again, if you aren't quite sure, then yes, you got to have some experience, but definitely niche down. If you are looking to have multiple streams of income, Jen says it's content. So I don't care what that content is. If you're in your car and you have an idea, voice note, record it. If you are writing, I don't care if it's in gibberish. I don't care what it looks like. it's content, because we can take anything and organize it.
Right.
Queen. Content is queen.
Yeah.
And so
we tell our clients always be recording, right? Like,
oh my God.
We have one client who's like a team, right? And so we're telling them like, look, you guys are already, it's not just one person. You guys are already together. Just start recording. Like these conversations, you just start recording.
I heard a funny anecdote. Do you guys know who Gary Vee is? He's yeah, he does like this, anyway, he's whatever. But I mean, he's great, I guess. I don't know him. But I heard this funny thing that he has a videographer that follows him around all day. I've always wanted that. That just captures content. Okay, we're not telling people they need to do that. But I do think, and I think you bring up this important point of like, people can help you polish your content. They can help you put it into words. You can hire a copywriter. There's a lot of things you can do. But at the root of it, the seed of like what you're passionate about in your business and what you want to say or messaging needs to come from you, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. So I'd like to give you this like outline of things that people should do. And we can offer that. We do have freebies where if you're starting a course, it kind of outlines that. I do have creating an ebook right now on how to create a podcast and maybe some webinars on that too, if people want to do it themselves. However, none of that, like we can't really outline that in specifics because everybody's different. Every project is different. Everything's different. But what I will say is the one and only and most important thing is your own authentic content and your own authentic voice. And I think 100%. That is something people forget. They want to, like I said, they want to create all this stuff. They want to outsource everything. They want to outsource everything. And that's great. We can do that. We can outsource everything. Mm-hmm. I don't like to do it. It's very expensive. And also, I don't think it does as well.
Right.
I think when people can pick up on the fact that this isn't your content. This isn't
you can't outsource you is like what you're the CEO of your own business. You can't outsource your own voice. A lot of people can help you. People can proofread your shit, but 100%. You can't outsource you. So,
ultimately what you're selling is you.
Yeah, that's what social media.
You are the product, right? I said this earlier in the podcast. There is nothing is original anymore, right? Everything's been done. That's okay. That doesn't mean it's not worth doing because what you bring to it is special, is unique.
100%.
But that's the thing. Ultimately, people are buying and supporting you, and so 100%. That's your voice. That's who you are. That's and. There's no way around that. It is you. It always will be you. Yeah. And, so, there's no alternative. So you figure out the things that you love doing, the part that fuels you, right?
Right.
And the part that drains you, we'll help with that.
Yeah.
We got 100%.
You. I love it.
I love listening to the recordings. We have a client who sends recordings all the time now, and they're sex therapists. And do have work in polyamorous relationships.
Sounds like some fun recordings,
It is very, and it's intense, but I love it, and I love it because it is so authentic. It's one of my favorite things to listen to because I feel like they're really showing up as them in a world where there is some stigma around it. So, and I think it's so cool. And as a therapist, I get to learn a lot from listening to it, but. It's great. And that's what I love. I love when people show up as them. And so,
you can tell that's like the secret sauce. Okay. So last question, and then we could talk for 500 more hours. Obviously we probably will. So I want to know, what is your biggest hope for your clients as you think about you guys as a business have expanded your reach a lot in the last couple of years. You've gotten a lot of new clients. And what do you hope for the therapists that come to you? Or anyone? I know you work not only with therapists, but that's who's listening to this podcast. So what do you hope for them?
Right. What do we hope for them?
All the things.
All the things. It's so hard. I hope all the things. I, as a therapist who also owns this business as a other stream of income, right? My hope for therapists is that they value themselves enough to believe that they deserve to be compensated for their expertise. And whether that be working in private practice or selling an online course or having products I feel like none of that really matters. The core of what I believe in my value system is that we need to start treating therapists the way they deserve to be treated in this field and compensating them for the hard work that they do.
Yes. 100%.
And as a therapist, like I see people, I'm exhausted. Like those days are really hard for me. And it's hard to then come home and show up as a mom or a wife or even just a normal person.
Yeah.
Some days,
Or even just go to the gym. Yeah.
100%. And, to hear friends of mine doing the same thing, being paid like not a living wage in California, to be honest, it's infuriating to me. And so I think my goal with this company at the end of the day is to help therapists not only create those streams of income, but to find, their sense of self-worth and belief that they deserve to be compensated for that.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that we are at like a turning point in mental health. And, for historically, mental health has been kind of treated as a luxury.
Right.
And I think that the pandemic, like what's happening everywhere, right? Like it's not just the pandemic, it's like part of it, it's the times, it's all these things. But I think we're in a turning point right now when it comes to mental health. And populations that have traditionally balked at any type of mental health are starting to open up to it. And so I think it's becoming more of like, we're recognizing something that you and I have kind of always known is that this is a necessity. This isn't a crisis situation. It's not a luxury. It's not something like you only use when you're, like in the worst possible. Yeah. When your life is on fire. This is something that is necessary throughout life as a tool, as a benefit, as part of just as much as like a 100%. Doctor. You go and get your checkup, you check in, you do all those things. So it's very much in that space, and I think we are at a turning point, and I think that's wonderful. And I think there's so many therapists who have something special to offer. I mean, like you may see like ADHD therapist, right? But then there's like this guy who does surf therapy with his patients, and he takes them surfing, and it's like,
plug him here. He's
amazing. But like, I love that he felt so strongly about that. And I really just hope that each listener, like, especially if you're just getting started, like that idea, that little thing that's just sitting there and you're always thinking like, yeah, that would be great. That would be great if that was a thing. That you believe that strong enough to make that happen, because I can, I promise that there are your clients, your full practice, and then beyond is there for you.
100%.
I have to put that link for this type of therapy in the show notes, because it is so important. I don't think there's enough. It is great. And it's great for kids, right? Who don't feel comfortable in an office. But with that being said,
or on Zoom.
As you're talking about this too, I want to also say that we are talking from a very privileged place, right? There are a lot of communities that don't have access to therapy, and they don't have access to even health insurance. Right. And so with that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with therapists like offering sliding scale or pro bono. We have a lot of therapists right now offering pro bono to some. We had a landslide up here in near where we live. And so there's a lot of elderly people that need therapy. And I want to just say that I think that it's so important. And I think with understanding you deserve to be compensated, there's also a fight that we have to make sure that the people that are in underprivileged communities get this care and the best care. And we also get paid for it. And they are penalized because our society doesn't want to pay for a much needed service.
Right. And that's why I'm hoping that we're the turning point that we can make that happen.
I always tell people, you got to go vote. You got to go vote.
You got to vote. You do. And if you do create multiple streams of income and you really love helping people,
give back.
Like me, you can give back. You can start providing these services that these people in these communities don't always have access to.
100%.
So, there's a lot of different ways to do that, right? 100%. Like Kelley talks a lot about like offering a specific number of sliding scale clients within your practice. And if those are full, those are full. Because, it's about balance, right? Like you have to be able to, you can't serve anyone if you can't put food on your table, if you can't pay your bills, like how can that work,
Right.
And then there's other ways too, there's people who go and they work at clinics for 1 day a week, right? And they, like that's
I'm people
where they, they're not making much money in that, but it's not about that, and I think that mentality is true, not just for therapists, but for all of us, right? Like, what are you good at? Like, where do you give back? And those are the people that are the happiest. But I think it's a balance in, in this life of like giving back, paying it forward, and also like making sure that you're respecting yourself enough to kind of demand what you deserve, and
yes, 100%.
Yeah,
I agree. Okay, I'm stopping us because we, again, could talk for 5 hours, and we probably will. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you guys, and they want to give you a call, where, or, better yet, your website, where can they find your information?
JengaCreative.com.
Okay, perfect. We'll put it in the show notes.
Contact page. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
What's your Instagram?
Jenga_creative.
Awesome.
And you can contact us via Instagram or
we have a TikTok
and you should
we
contact
do have a
Jenn and
TikTok,
Amanda.
but there's like 2 posts on it. I struggle with TikTok. I feel like I'm too
hard,
old.
man. You're not too
But
old
then
to do TikTok.
like, here's the thing.
TikTok.
The demographic is people our age, which is so interesting to me because when I look at it, like the research shows it's actually people our age, even though you think TikTok is for the younger generation.
Right.
But wait,
Now,
you just said you're not too old. I'm doing it, but you're younger than we are.
whatever. I'm not that much younger. And I have started investing in TikTok. I finally surrendered, and I've been working on TikTok and on Threads. So I think, anyway, like I said, we're going to go talk about this. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to check out Jenn and Amanda's info in the show notes, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Ask Kelley Anything is just around the corner. But first, a word from our sponsor. Stay tuned for Kelley's response to your private practice questions.
Therapists, do you want more clients at your full cash rate? Mentaya is a platform that navigates out-of-network benefits for clients. They get clients on average 70% back on therapy by filing claims and chasing down insurance companies. They handle literally everything so that you can focus on what matters. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and get 1 month free using the code PRO.
Welcome back, everyone, to Ask Kelley Anything. We're doing things a little bit differently today, and I have one of my good friends and an amazing, talented professional here with me today to answer today's question. So this is Rebecca Miller. Becca, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello. I'm Rebecca Miller. I run a company called Rebecca Miller Editorial, and I provide content services for creators like you, for brands, for nonprofits, for anyone who needs my help.
I love it. Becca is truly so talented and works with me on so many projects for Private Practice Pro. So, Becca, I wanted you to come on today for today's question because I got a question this week from one of my course members that basically asked, she said she's doing her website right now for her solo private practice and feeling like she's having difficulty deciding whether or not she's going to write her own content or whether or not she wants to hire a writer to help her kind of work on her website. So I wanted to kind of have you come on today because you work with me and help me with my writing for my website. And it helps me with so many different branding projects. And so I wanted us to kind of talk through what some of the benefits are of working with a writer, specifically when you're crafting a private practice website.
Yeah. So I think really the hardest thing to write about is yourself. I think that's true for everybody. I don't know if you remember writing your personal essay for your college application. That took me forever. It was a huge challenge. Yeah. It feels awful. And, even me, I write professionally and I struggled with writing my own About Me page on my website. So I fully get it. It's really hard to write about yourself. And sometimes getting a third party and outside perspective can really help you sort of hone in on what you're looking to say, can help you say it a little bit better, a little more strongly than you might be able to say it yourself, and can sort of boost you up in a way that you might feel uncomfortable doing yourself. So I really recommend it.
Oh, 100%. And, I always see therapist websites in some ways, and I'm imagining you see this too, that are so wordy. And I think having somebody help with the writing piece, prevents us from falling into that trap of using kind of therapist speak, because our clients don't necessarily know what all the ins and outs of therapy terms are. But I think as therapists, sometimes we're so used to using that language that we forget that it's people who might be reading our website who are not versed in all the therapy talk,
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think I'm lucky I'm sort of in that middle ground where basically all of my close friends are in the mental health profession. I have not, but I feel like I understand that world pretty well. I understand the language, but I also can see it from the layperson side where it's like, that doesn't really make sense if you're not, if you haven't spent thousands of hours learning this technical language. And about the wordiness, you're totally right. I think people have a tendency to sort of get everything down on paper and think like the more, the better. Just tell them everything about me, everything about what I am looking to do, everything about my practice. It's too much for people. They're going to glaze over. So yeah, even more than writing about yourself, editing yourself is a big challenge.
Oh, that's my hardest part. This is my hard. So behind the scenes, anyone listening to this should know that Becca does so much for me. And this is definitely one of my biggest struggles is cutting it down. So, okay. So Becca, can you explain a little bit about how the process works? If somebody's going to hire you to help them write the content for their new private practice website, how does that work?
Sure. So sort of the biggest time investment that we do will be an initial conversation. So I like to work through, I have a pretty long questionnaire, but it's just a conversation. It's a long conversation about you, about your business, your background, your interest, your niche, your goals for your website and for your practice, and sort of working through all those things that make you who you are and make your business what it is so that I can really understand and do like a deep dive into what you're all about. And so then after that, I take all of that information. I go away for typically about 2 weeks to write the whole website and send over a draft. And then we go through that together and we sort of figure out what doesn't sound quite right to you, what should we clarify. I take that information back with me typically about another week or so, and then you've got your website. So it's a pretty streamlined process. And, sometimes I'll need to check in and check little details here and there. But it's really just more of it's almost like a therapy session, I guess you could say, of just sort of talking through what your business is, what you're hoping for, what your goals are. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, yeah. And I would say anyone who's listening to this might not know that that's actually a pretty quick turnaround. I've definitely worked with different writers in the past whose turnaround is a few months, So, which I think, a lot of times people are starting private practices and they want to do it quickly. Like they've left a job and they need to be making money and get their website up. And so I think it's a really quick turnaround. And I know for me, it was invaluable. Like being able to have somebody help me with the writing really made all the difference in converting clients into actual clients,
Yeah. And, like you, I have a toddler at home, so I'm pretty efficient. Gotten pretty good at getting things done in the few minutes a day that I have to get them done. So
you have the best toddler at home. She's awesome. Okay. So for the sake of efficiency, where can people find you if they want to, are interested in your services?
So they can find me at RebeccaMillerEditorial.com.
Awesome.
And the same is my Gmail. So RebeccaMillerEditorial@gmail.com. So you can find me there. My rates are on my website, and follow me on Instagram at RebeccaMillerEditorial. Pretty straightforward.
We'll put all of your info in the show notes.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on, Becca. I, as you know, love chatting with you, and we'll have to have you on for a full episode one day, but this was really helpful. So we'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you. Great to see you.
If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelley Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now and make sure to write it down. Here it is. 805-243-8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.